Do you have a dirty little secret in your sewing room? Let's be honest, is cleaning your sewing machine an afterthought, or is it something that you proactively do to keep your machine in tip-top shape? Today I'd like to share with you some of the methods that I use to keep my sewing machine clean and functioning well. If you're anything like me, I put my sewing machine through a lot, so I need to make sure that it's clean and working well. And cleaning it on a regular basis is key. So today, let's go through several tips and tricks on keeping your machine clean and functioning well. I'm also going to share with you some of the tools and supplies that I use. I hope that you enjoy them as much as I do. Is it weird that I enjoy cleaning? Hey, it's Ladine from Sugar Stitches Quilt Co. Whether you're a beginner quilter or looking to improve your quilting skills, this channel is all about bringing you the tips, tricks, and techniques to make you a better quilter. So if this sounds like you, then make sure and hit that subscribe button so you can be notified when I post new videos for you. Let's talk about some of the tools and supplies that I like to use when cleaning my sewing machine. First, I have a microfiber towel. This is really a great option for just wiping down your sewing machine on the exterior. I like to take my thread off and give everything a nice wipe down. And these are really the best types of towels to use. They're lint-free, and then you don't have to worry about putting any unnecessary chemicals on your sewing machine or on the outside. I also like to use Mr. Clean Magic Erasers. These are so helpful in so many different ways, and they're just one of those multi-purpose tools that you like to have cleaning, whether it's your sewing machine or in your house. So I keep them on hand for so many different things, but I've used them before. If you ever get like a little bit of gunk or oil that's built up in a particular area in your sewing machine and you need to clean it, these can be really helpful. Same can be said for alcohol wipes. I keep these at home too, just on hand, and they can also be helpful for little small areas where you may have some built up gunk, oil, things of that nature. You don't want to soak any area in your sewing machine, obviously, with alcohol or any other liquid, but these are good if you just want to wipe the surface and then let it air dry. Now, when we're starting off to clean our sewing machine, we obviously need small tools to be able to open everything up, our bobbin area, the sewing machine plate, things of that nature. I love this little bitty set of screwdrivers that I just keep on hand for all sorts of purposes. My sewing machine actually came with a small screwdriver, and it actually looks like this, and sometimes it's just a little hard for me to hold and to get a good grip on to use. So I bought these in a kit that I'm going to link down for you in the description, and I really like the two sizes. One's larger if you want to do things like change your needle or change your foot, and then the smaller one is great if I need to get into other areas like around my sewing machine plate. Another all-purpose tool that I just like having in my sewing room is a pair of tweezers. And these tweezers are angled so that you can really get into some areas where you might have some little dust bunnies or threads that have gotten caught up. You can use these to get into those areas and pull things out that you might not be able to do with your fingers. These brushes, dare I say, is one of my favorite things to clean with in my sewing machine. I buy these by the package. I love them so much. They have a nice little bristle end, this little dusting end as well, and I keep it next to my sewing machine. And so many times, even just around the needle area, sometimes when you get dust bunnies, even if I'm not doing regular monthly cleaning, I like to just keep these here, and I'll just move things away or brush them away with this end. It's a really great tool to just keep on hand. And then also I have a few of these. This is another new pack that I just bought. They are the Quilt in a Day sewing machine cleaning brushes, and you can see these are super tiny. They have what they call a micro tip for precise cleaning, and These are so small and they get into all sorts of little nooks and crannies that you need to when you're cleaning out your sewing machine. And the handles are bendable as well. I'll show you a little bit later in this video. So it's another really great tool to have on hand to get into those spaces where we may not be able to with other tools. And then by far, one of my favorite cleaning tools is my mini vacuum. And this mini vacuum comes with different nozzles. You can see this one is an angled nozzle, is the one I use more often. And then also it comes with this, that has a little brush on the end. But this is so great, it just has a little on-off button. And you can see I actually need to clean my vacuum cleaner, but it's so nice to be able to just run this in all the areas in your sewing machine. I'm going to show you how in just a little bit when we go over to my machine, but this just gets in those areas that you may not be able to. And then also sometimes when you're cleaning your sewing machine, you end up with so much dust and lint that what are you going to do with it? Brush it onto the floor or clean it with a rag, something like that. It's so much easier to just vacuum it up. I also use this on my keyboard too. After we clean our sewing machine, I always like to give my machine a good oil. I have a Juki, and Jukis require a good bit of oil, regular oiling. Your machine may not. So that's why I mentioned to make sure and review your manufacturer's manual about suggested maintenance, because some machines you don't oil. And there's very specific places that you need to oil. I like this oil brand because it's got this nice long nozzle on it, it has a cap on it, and I actually keep it just standing up next to my sewing machine so that I don't forget to use it. And then lastly, when I'm talking about sewing machine cleaning, it's also about maintaining. And I keep this box of Schmetz needles, and then that way I can literally just have needles ready to go. I firmly believe that one of the keys to precise piecing is a nice sharp needle and making sure that you change your needles regularly. So I'm including this in my sewing machine cleaning and maintenance because I really believe that if you make it part of your maintenance after you've cleaned everything, you're assembling everything back together, go ahead and change that needle out, and I bet you'll notice a big difference. Then you don't have to remember it at any other time. So now that we've gone through our tools, let's go ahead and get started cleaning our machine. The first step that I like to take when cleaning my sewing machine is starting by opening everything up. Now, depending on your machine and your manufacturer, certain elements may be more removable than other parts. So I have a Juki, and of course even all Juki models are different, but again, I encourage you to consult your manual to determine which areas can be opened and where you should be cleaning. So again, keep in mind every machine is different, but I'm going to show you what I do on mine, and then there's some general tips that aren't necessarily machine specific. No matter what type of machine you have, you should be able to get down into your bobbin area and clean that area, and then we'll also talk about the area around your needle that you should be cleaning, and then just an overall cleaning and wiping of the machine as well. So the first thing I do is I unplug my machine. And of course we want to take safety to make sure that we do that. I have a Sew Steady table, as you can see, an acrylic table here, so I like to remove that. And this just allows me more room to get to all of the components that I'm going to be cleaning. I also like to go ahead and take my thread out of my machine, and I'll just roll that up and put that aside. And then this also allows us to clean the areas where our thread moves, and my particular machine, the thread goes from here to this area, so I always notice that I get a lot of lint in this area here. So I like to be able to wipe this area down and in between my tension disc and those components. Again, every machine will be different. It's just a general idea. I also remove the seam guide, the magnetic seam guide that I have on my machine. And then I go into the bobbin case and remove my bobbin. Now, we'll be cleaning the bobbin case itself, so I like to leave that down to the side so that I can clean that, but then I just put my bobbin over to the side. At this point, I also like to go ahead and remove my needle. And as I've recommended, go ahead and change your needle out if you don't already change them regularly or in between projects. I find that it's much easier to do everything at one time. Since I'm going through my cleaning and maintenance, I like to go ahead and just remove my needle and change that. But I do change more often between projects. And then I also like to go ahead and remove my presser foot. And I like to clean my presser foot with a small brush, and so I'm going to put that to the side. This is the presser foot that I usually sew with, so I'm going to put that to the side too so we can wipe that off with the brush. And then I remove my sewing plate, and this is in here with screws, and so this little screwdriver set that I showed you earlier is where this comes in super handy. I just have everything ready to go. And don't lose your screws. I like to put them, I have a magnetic pen holder that I just put those screws in so that I can make sure they don't go anywhere. And then I remove that, and I have purposely not cleaned my machine in a while so that it would be good and dirty for you. All right, and then again I just put that plate over to the side so I have everything here exposed that I want to clean. The next step that I recommend is to brush everything out. I've recommended 2 brushes to you, but you can use whatever type brush you want. I like this larger brush that has a dual end on it. They have 2 different types of brushes that I find just get into areas in a different way. And then I also showed you these little small lint-free sewing machine cleaning brushes from Quilt in a Day, and these are good to get in some little small areas. I like to follow the path of my thread so that I can make sure and get in all areas. And I give the area here, this is where my thread goes through to go to my bobbin area. When I want to wind a bobbin, I get in that area. I have a couple of screws here that I will be oiling later. And then I have on my Juki, I have a few tension disc areas that I like to just brush off. And essentially we're just getting all of that lint off from our thread, because thread can sure create a lot of mess after a period of time. And I like these brushes because, as you can see, I can get in these areas here and brush out any lint without disturbing anything. And then when I'm done cleaning the area, I just need to brush it off on the outside, and we're letting everything fall down into the lower areas that will wipe clean. Now I'm moving into this area where my needle and presser foot are mounted, and you can see this is not only dirty but it's oily as well. With Jukis, you oil them pretty regularly, so I notice a bit of an oil buildup. So those are the areas that I like to wipe sometimes with a alcohol swab just to get some of that oily residue off. That leaves us with the bobbin and the feed dog area, which I'll show you in just a bit. But while I have my brush out, I like to take my regular presser foot, and you can see that this gets really dirty right in here too. And so I just like to give that a brush, a little scrub, and just get all of that yucky stuff off. There we go. Same thing with my bobbin case. Just give that a wipe as well. Get the lint out of there. And that one's all done. And then I showed you on my sewing machine plate, sometimes I've noticed, oh, and you can see too, that this gets really dusty right underneath this area. So I like to just take my brush and give that a brush too. You wouldn't think very much about cleaning these areas, but they all gather so much dust and lint. And over time, if you don't just take these few minutes to do these types of things, they really build up. Even the area, like this is on the outside of my machine, if you can see, it just gets dusty, and that's just from the thread. So doing these types of quick wins can just keep your sewing machine running better and prevent any issues. So now let's get a little deeper into this area. Okay, so I have zoomed in a little closer into the grossest area of my sewing machine, but that's why we're doing this, right? And like I said, I did on purpose to not clean so that I would have a really dirty area to show you. So on the Juki, I am able to turn my machine over to get to the underneath side of the bobbin case area. So I'm going to do that and show you the area that comes off that is actually underneath this area. And now you can see that's pretty gross. Not only do I have some of the oil that has seeped through from the bobbin area, and that is where these little alcohol wipes can really come in handy. I just buy these. We keep these on hand for our household anyway, and then I just grab a couple. It's just regular alcohol. I try not to use these in any areas where there are mechanical parts, just because I don't want any moisture in those areas. Alcohol dries quickly, but again, I'm not a sewing machine repair person, so I just want to make sure and keep that on the exterior areas. This area opens up, and again, your machine is going to be different, and you can see all of the oil and the dust that has collected. So of course, because the area is oily, then the dust just collects in that area. So, and would you believe that this is probably from just sewing maybe two smaller projects, not even a full quilt. And then you can see I've got a lot of oil in these areas as well. Then I've got this cover that I need to go ahead and clean. And because this is an oily area, I really don't like to use my larger brush. And so sometimes I'll wipe the oilier parts, the larger parts with an alcohol wipe, and then get into that area with these smaller brushes, because I don't want to dirty my larger brushes unless I'm going to be disposing of it. Because there's no sense in wiping something with oil and dirt and then putting it on something else. So I'll either save this area till later, or I just use a smaller brush like this. And you can see how easy it is to get this out of here. You may have a secret area that gets dirty in your machine, and have you cleaned in that? Because you may not have. And if you don't have any oil in an area like this and you just need to wipe it down, a microfiber towel will do a great job as well. Okay, I think I'm all done with that area, and that looks pretty good. Only a couple minutes work, and now look how clean it is, and all that gunk is gone. Okay, now we are looking a little bit closer at the underneath side. So my bobbin goes through this direction here. So this is the area underneath my bobbin case. And I like to just take my brush and go through here and give everything a good wipe. Now some of these areas are oily, however, I'm not going to wipe them with my alcohol wipes because that's not an area that I want to necessarily remove any oil from. I'm just trying to get the lint and debris out. So it will usually dirty up my brush pretty good when I'm done, but that's why I like the bag of these, because then I can dispose of them when they get too dirty. Okay, and I'm done wiping that area. There is just a little bit of oil that came down here as I was wiping, so I'm just going to wipe that up. And then for the most part, I am done with this bottom section. On my Juki, there's no place to oil here. So essentially, I'm just going to put this cover back on. And now we're ready to move on to the next step. Now I have flipped my machine over, and we are ready to attack the next area and the dirtiest area of our sewing machine, and that is inside the bobbin area and around the feed dogs. Again, I just take my brush and I go through all of these areas, brushing everything off. Also, the reason I like this brush is because it gets into the feed dog area so well, because it's really gross in that area. And then you also like to take this brush type or this smaller brush and get into your bobbin area really well too. You don't want to disturb anything in there. We're just giving everything on the exterior a good wipe down. Brushing all that lint off. You may notice that the area that I just finished cleaning is down here on the bottom, and a lot of the lint and dust is falling onto that area that I just cleaned. But with my next favorite tool that I'm going to show you, we're going to take care of all that. Okay, so I think I'm done wiping all of these areas here. For the most part, everything looks pretty clean. All right. Now let me show you my favorite tool to clean my machine with. I love this little mini vacuum. It gets into all these areas, and then I even use it around the top of my machine as well. This is one of my favorite attachments, but it also comes with one that has a brush on it, and I like that for getting into the feed dog areas too. So what I essentially do is just vacuum the area around. And I also like this, that it's not too small that it gets into any area that I may damage. I'm all done with my little mini vacuum. Isn't that the neatest? And then there's a USB charger that it just plugs in. It's so super easy. And for the most part, I am done with the wiping and cleaning of this area. And don't you think it looks so much better? I think it does. Before I oil my bobbin area or replace my needle, one thing that I like to do is go ahead and give the whole machine a good wipe down as well, and the area around my machine before I start replacing anything. And that's just to make sure that any areas of lint or dust that I may have missed can get wiped up clean before I reassemble everything. Now we're all finished. Look how nice and clean our machine is. Everything is ready to be put back together so we can continue our sewing. As I mentioned before, there are certain areas that need to be oiled on a juke. So what I'll do before putting everything back together is I'll just give everything an oil. And there's one other place that I need to oil down here in my bobbin area. I'm going to take care of that, and then we're all done with the oil. So the next step is to go ahead and reinsert the bobbin. And then we'll go ahead and reattach our plate. And the next step is to go ahead and put our needle, our new needle in, and reattach our presser foot. And now we're ready to thread our machine and get back to sewing. Okay, we're all finished. We have our nice, clean, healthy sewing machine ready to abuse some more with some sewing. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope that you establish a regular cleaning routine with your machine as well. Your machine will thank you. I hope you enjoyed this video and my tips on cleaning your sewing machine. I encourage you again to set aside a regular routine in your sewing space to minimize any problems and maximize your productivity. Drop me a comment below and let me know how you like to keep your sewing machine clean and ready to go. Also, if you liked this video and found it helpful, do me a favor and give it a thumbs up, which allows me to keep creating free content for you. So get cleaning your sewing machine, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.